Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we've got Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore. We're going to be chatting with him about the fact that it looks like the Orioles are going to be sellers at the trade deadline. This was indicated by the fact that Gregory Soto got moved a few days ago. We're also going to be chatting with him about the AL East race, just how much these teams that are selling might be able to get out of their guys because things are so tightly bunched in Major League Baseball in general, and we'll also talk about that Rockies versus Orioles game that we are going to be seeing on this Sunday. And then in the final segment, get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. And additionally, with EdgeBoost, you get rewards when you utilize EdgeBoost as well. So doing a great job and a great service for bettors, and we are looking to do you guys a great service by trying to make you guys some money on this podcast. So let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Atlanta Braves are now 15 games below 500. Looked like they were going to get the job done against the Texas Rangers, and then Raisel Iglesias had other ideas. 6-5. The Rangers are able to get the job done. And for the Rangers, by the way, averaging about 5.8 runs per game here in the month of July. That is a top 2 mark in all of baseball. So a little bit of a shout out to them. As for Kumar Rocker, he was not long for this game. Rocker did get rocked for 3 runs given up over the course of 4 innings. And then from there, you did have the bullpen do their part. Jacob Latz, he was able to come in for a scoreless inning. John Gray, 55 shades of John Gray, does give up a solo home run in his 3 innings of work. Michael Harris was able to get his 9th home run season. And Harris actually did something in this game. He hit for almost a cycle. He had 2 triples, a double, and a home run. He does not get the single that he needs for the cycle, so a single short of the cycle. And then you had Jordan Armstrong give up a run in 2 innings of work as he was able to pitch a scoreless 10th inning. And for the Atlanta Braves, you did not necessarily get the start that you were looking for out of Grant Holmes. 4 runs allowed in 4 innings, and Abadel, Raisel Iglesias, everyone did their part in the bullpen. Dane Dunning, he was sunning with 2 scoreless innings. Zone Lee, Pierce Johnson, they both supply a scoreless inning, and then Iglesias gives up a run in his inning of work before Año de los Santos gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning as Marcus Semien, his RBI single, ends the game. The Orioles absolutely take it to the Colorado Rockies, 18-0 the final. Antonio Senzatella, a.k.a. the Human Pinata, well, a lot of candy came out of him. He gave up 6 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a pair of homers going deep. For Baltimore, it was Tyler O'Neill's 5th home run of the campaign and Cedric Mullins his 14th home run season. Kyle Farmer, position player, gives one up to Andrew Jackson, 3rd home run season and 3rd home run the last 10 days. Farmer gives up a run in his inning of work, and he might have been the best pitcher in the game. For the Rockies, Ryan Rolison, 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in 1 2/3 innings. You had Nick Anderson give up 5 runs in an inning. Zach Agnos, 4 runs in a third of an inning. And for Baltimore, Trevor Rogers continues to be great. 1 hit, no runs allowed in 7 innings. Kyle Stout was able to give you a scoreless inning, and Yuromil Geraldo was able to come in for a scoreless inning as well for Baltimore to be able to get the job done. The Reds keep rolling. They're up to 55 and 56-2. They take it to the Tampa Bay Rays. As for the Rays, Ryan Pepiot, 2 earned runs given up in 6 innings, and then the bullpen blew this one. Brian Baker has not been a good acquisition for Tampa Bay. 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Garrett Clevenger, he goes for an out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Kevin Kelly, he gives up 2 runs in his inning work. Yandy Diaz, main form of offense for Tampa Bay, 18th home run season. That comes off of Andrew Abbott, who gives up that solo home run in his 6 innings of work. You had Tony Santin, Emilio Pagan, both on his scoreless inning, and then you had Graham Ashcraft give up a run in his inning of work. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, without Josh Naylor, they have scored 1 run in 19 innings, and they lose this one by a count of 2-0. They've had 3 runs thus far in this series, as Merrill Kelly, he was fine. 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in 6 2/3 innings. Did allow a home run to O'Neill Cruz, 17th home run season, but does his part. Andrew Selfrank from there and out of the bullpen scoreless. Kendall Graveman a scoreless setting, but absolutely nothing doing for Arizona at the plate, as Andrew Heaney goes for 5 scoreless innings. Genesis Cabrera along with Johan Ramirez. You don't mess with the Johan, both combined for a scoreless setting. Caleb Ferguson, Dennis Santana, and David Bennar. They're all able to give you a scoreless setting. We saw a double dip out there in Kansas City with the Royals getting a walk-off winner by a count of 5-3 in game number 1. As for Gavin Williams, not a bad start here. He allows 2 runs in 6 innings. Did give up a home run to Mikel Garcia, his 9th home run of the campaign, but it would be Jonathan India walking it off of Emmanuel Clase in the 10th inning. His 5th of the campaign, that was the difference, as Eric Zabrowski, Kate Smith, prior to that, combined 2 scoreless innings. Hunter Gaddis a scoreless inning, and then Clase gives up 3 runs in the 10th inning, so that was all sorts of brutal. And for the Kansas City Royals, you had Michael Walker give you a nice start, 5 1/3 innings, allows 1 run. John Schreiber allows a run in 2/3 inning. Anel Zerpa, Lucas Erceg combined for 2 scoreless innings. Carlos Estevez, a scoreless inning, and Steven Cruz does give up an unearned run in the 10th inning, but the Royals persevered in game number 1. But then in game number 2, Chris with K. Bubich, 4 walks in the first inning, set the tone in this one, 6-4. The Guardians get the job done, as the Guardians get 6 runs in this game, with having a relatively pedestrian start from Tanner Bybee. He gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, did allow a pair of bombs, as you had Freddie Fermin get his 3rd home run in the campaign, and Bobby Witt Jr. his 15th, but Bubich, he only allows 2 2/3 innings, gives up 4 runs, 3 of which weren't. From there, you did have Taylor Clark run 2 scoreless innings, Sammy Long 2 scoreless innings, and Jonathan Bolin, well, he gives up 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings, including a home run to Stephen Kwan, his 9th home run of the season. So there was a nice splitter-rooney with 1 over and 1 under in that doubleheader. For the Red Sox, they take down the LA Dodgers by a count of 4-2, as for the Dodgers, pair of home runs in the first inning. Teoscar Hernandez, 16th of the campaign. Shohei Ohtani is 38th. From there, it will be all silent for them, as Clayton Kershaw, 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Bullpen actually looked good, as Alexis Diaz, Will Klein, Kirby Yates lend a scoreless inning, and you did have an out of the bullpen scoreless from Eduardo Enriquez. And for Boston, after giving up the pair of home runs in the first inning, Garrett Crochet went to work, giving up just 2 runs in 6 innings, including 10 punchouts. Justin Wilson, Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman, they're all able to score a scoreless inning. And for the Cubs, after falling to the White Sox on Friday, they did not suffer the same fate on Saturday. 6-1, they take down the Southsiders, as Cade Orton, well, he heard who was going to be going scoreless in this one, the White Sox. He gives up no runs in 6 1/3 innings. Ryan Presley does allow a solo home run in his inning work to break this shutout, as Mike Tauchman get his 7th home run of the season, and Aaron Civale was fine in this one. 5 scoreless innings. Tyler Alexander was able to give you a scoreless inning. Brandon Iser fouls out the bullpen scoreless, but Jordan Leisure gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, leisurely giving up a home run to Ian Happ, 14th home run of the season, and then Matt Shaw, his 6th home run of the season. Yeah, Tyler Gilbert gave up a run in an inning, and Dan Altavilla, he gave up 2 runs without getting a single out of the bullpen, so that was a little bit rough. And for the Cubs, you also had Caleb Theobar, pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless, and Brad Keller lend a scoreless inning. Yeah, lots of scoreless innings lent by these guys, as the A's, they get the job done against the Houston Astros by a count of 5-1. As for the Athletics, Jacob Lopez, not long for this game. He goes 4 1/3 innings, walks 4, but doesn't give up any runs. Justin Sterner gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings, but Sean Newcomb, 2 scoreless innings. Mason Miller, a scoreless inning, and for the Athletics, a pair of home runs. Lawrence Butler, 15th home run in the campaign, coming off of Hector Neris in the 9th inning, and Bennett Sosa gives it up to Shea Langoliers, says Shea bangs his 16th home run of the season. For Hunter Brown, he takes a loss even though he gives up 105 innings. Would like to see a little bit more length, but not bad there. Hector Neris gives up 3 unearned runs in his inning work. Zach Short had a bad fielding error out there. Bennett Sosa gives up a solo run in his inning work. Brian King and Brian Abreu, they were both able to give you scoreless innings, so the A's are going to win this series, and this team was able to get a W as you had a 6-1 win for the Blue Jays. As for the Tigers, they have went 1-9 in their last 10 games, and for the Jays, it was a trio of bombs that got it done for them. Nathaniel Luke's 7th home run season off of Chase Lee. Lee gives one up to Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s 14th home run this season, and George Springer, 18th home run season, also off of Lee, who gave up 4 runs in that 9th inning. As Tariq Skubal, he does his part, 6 scoreless innings, not necessarily the Tariq Skubal that we all know and love with the 3 walks, but Fitch, 6 scoreless innings. He can't ask for much more than that. Tommy Kahnle, a scoreless inning, and then Will Vest, 2 runs allowed in his inning work. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, you had Kevin Gausman be very sharp in this one. Allows 1 hit, 10 punch-outs, no runs in 6 innings. You did have Tommy Nance give up a run in 1 1/3 innings, but you had Braden Fisher give you a scoreless inning, and Mason Fluharty, pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless as well. You had the Philadelphia Phillies take it to the New York Yankees 9-4 the final, as Aaron Judge, he lands on the injured list after this game, so that's not great for the Yankees, but Giancarlo Stanton does go deep in this one. 7th home run of the campaign, as that one comes off of the bullpen piece in Daniel Robert, who gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in his inning work. Ranger Suarez, nice bounce back start. 1 run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Max Laser and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Seth Johnson a scoreless inning. Alan Ragnall, he was able to give you a inning out of the bullpen. He allows a run along the way, and then for the Phillies, a pair of bombs, as you had Umando Sosa get his 4th home run season off of Austin Winans, and for Marcus Stroman, he gives one up to Mr. Bryce Harper, 15th home run season. Stroman lasts just 3 2/3 innings, allowing 4 runs. Winans, he gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in his 3 innings of work. Jonathan Loaiza, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Yori De Los Santos, 1 2/3 innings. He allows a run along the way, and a lot of runs allowed by the Milwaukee Brewers, as the Miami Marlins get a 7-4 win. The Marlins are now 26-24 on the road. That is a top 6 road record in terms of win percentage in the big leagues. Jansen Junk was not that. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. Wasn't amazing, but wasn't junk. From there, Tyler Phillips, 4 innings of long relief, does allow a solo home run as Andrew Vaughn gets his 8th home run season, but that's all that he would give up. And for the Marlins, trio bombs. Augustin Ramirez, 15th home run season. Dane Myers get his 5th home run season. Then it was home run number 4 of the campaign for Roberto Enriquez, as all 3 of these come off of Mr. Jose Quintana and Grant Anderson. Anderson allows 2 runs in his inning of work. Jose Quintana, 5 runs, but 2 of which were earned, allowed in his 5 innings of work, as Bryce Trang had an error out there in the field. DL turned it up, Hall 2 scoreless innings, and Jerry Koenig was able to come in. He supplied a scoreless inning, and for the Slam Diego Padres, it's been rough sledding for them with regards to their offense, but pitching continues to be rock solid. 3-1, they take it to the St. Louis Cardinals. Randy Vasquez gives up 1 run in 4 2/3 innings. Andre Motojon, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez lend a scoreless inning, and Jeremiah Estrada, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. The Padres win this game despite going 0-10 with men in scoring position, as Matthew Liberatore, not long for this game, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 4 1/3 innings. Kyle Leahy, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. John King was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Riley O'Brien, a scoreless inning, and then Andre Granillo, he comes in for 2/3 inning. He allows a run along the way. Then late night, the Seattle Mariners, who have been the top over team in all of baseball, they got themselves another over, so now they're 57 overs, 43 unders, and 5 pushes as far this season, with the Sacramento A's being the second best over team in all of baseball. And they go out there and they get the job done against the LA Angels, this by a count of 7-2, as Julio Rodriguez, he goes deep once again. 3rd straight game with a homer, 4th in his last 3 games, 18th of the campaign. That comes off of Tyler Anderson, and Randy Arozarena, he gets his 20th home run in the campaign. Cal Raleigh, big dumper off of Jose Fermin, 40th home run of the season as Fermin. 3 runs allowed, including that bomb. He didn't get a single out. Anderson, he gives up the 2 home runs in 4 2/3 innings. Sam Bachman and out of the bullpen scoreless. Connor Brogdon, a scoreless inning, and Carson Fulmer holds down the fort for 3 innings, allowing 1 run, and George Kirby does allow a home run of his own, 2 runs in total allowed in 6 innings, as Taylor Ward gets his 24th home run in the campaign. Trent Thornton from there, 2 scoreless innings, and 1 Carlos Vargas was able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the San Francisco Giants, things have been rough since they picked up Rafael Devers, and not a lot doing on offense in this one. They fall by kind of 2-1 to the New York Mets, as for Devers, as we know, he did not want to play first base, but for the Red Sox, played first first base for the Giants, but had an error in this one that proved to be relatively costly. Robbie Ray, pretty good performance, 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. You had Ryan Walker give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Joey Lucchesi, Tyler Rogers, Randy Rodriguez all turned scoreless innings, and David Peterson, a lot of contact. 8 hits allowed in 6 innings, but only 1 run as the Giants go 0 of 8 with men in scoring position. Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek, Edwin Diaz, they all turn a scoreless inning. And when it comes to trend-wise, what we're seeing in baseball, we've seen more unders than overs in baseball ever since the All-Star break, and the underdogs are just absolutely eating right now. For the underdogs, right now, 53-41 on the money line over the last 7 days, hitting at nearly 57%, and the under rate in baseball is right around about 55%. 40 overs, 48 unders, and if math serves me correct, I believe that we've had 5 pushes along the way as well. And then if you look overall for the season, the under rate is 52.5%, 791 unders to 718 overs. And if you're looking at the favorites overall for the season, hitting at about 56.8%, 884 and 672 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Saturday. Now let's chat about what we might be getting at the trade deadline, what the Orioles plans are, how we take a look at the American League landscape, and so much more with Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore. That comes up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He's taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and he's really the 5-tool man out there in the city of Baltimore. He's reporting upon the news, he's reporting upon the Ravens, he's reporting upon the Baltimore Orioles, and I wouldn't doubt it if he's big on the food scene out there in Baltimore as well. He does a little bit of everything, and he does so also well. That's why his name on the old Twitter/X is The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, it is a pleasure joining your show. And yes, we've got a week ahead where I'm going to be covering some Ravens training camp, as well as, I'm sure, a heavy week as far as conversation around Baltimore surrounding potential trades and where this team is going to head next season. Because while it feels a little bit dire, especially after losing Friday to the Rockies, I think the core of this Orioles team is still going to be there. It might not be as gloomy as some around here may think.
Yep, and it is really interesting to take a look at this Baltimore Orioles team because they really got the selling started on Friday with Gregory Soto being moved, and I think that we're both in the same boat here. Not necessarily the world's biggest loss for the Baltimore Orioles, but what do you think that they're going to do the next week or so? Because obviously with Baltimore, it looks like they're not going to be able to make the postseason, even with how open things are out there in the American League. But I think the question becomes, do they want to go all in on and sell, or just sell off a few pieces? Because I do think that there's going to be a lot of teams that are either going to be standing pat or buying with how open this season is. And I feel like the teams that are going to be stepping up and selling could get a king's ransom for their big pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there are some pieces with this Orioles team from a veteran standpoint that are going to be moved. You think about Zach Eflin. I think that they are going to try and move him, especially considering he looked good in his last start against the Cleveland Guardians there, and they're thinking they're going to try and get one more start out of him this upcoming series against Toronto. But then after that, I would not expect him to be in this rotation, especially with Kyle Bradish coming back in 2 to 3 weeks. And I think they want to see what they've got with him. Tyler Wells, somebody that could be a few weeks away, not somebody that they're heavily relying on like they were Bradish or Grayson Rodriguez, who knows when that situation's ever going to get better. He just always seems to have setbacks. But, yeah, I think that you're going to see Eflin getting dealt. Charlie Morton almost definitely. It was almost insinuated by Tony Mansolito, the interim manager. He did mention how he hopes Charlie Morton stays, but Morton is a pitcher that a lot of teams would like to have, even if he's not starting in the postseason. Think about having Charlie Morton come out for an inning or two, or being somebody in a bullpen to be able to kind of keep some guys level in big spots. So I think Morton is almost definitely gone. And then Felix Bautista was going to be gone. It's just amazing now that situation looks like he'll probably end up staying being an Oriole, considering he's injured. So you have him there. If anybody else, I would say Cedric Mullins almost definitely would be probably moved as well, too, considering he's a free agent after this year, hitting like 6th in that lineup. You've got Colton Cowser there. Ramon Laureano is another guy, certainly a big-time candidate to be moved too. You're stuck kind of with Tyler O'Neill at this point. And then there's been a lot of talk about Ryan O'Hearn getting moved. But to me, I think if you're going to try and say to the fan base, look, we're not blowing it all up, I know you can get some nice return on O'Hearn, especially considering his on-base percentage is really strong. But I wouldn't want to part ways with him just because of how he has been just kind of such a stalwart on this team, a leader. And so, yeah, we'll see if he is one of these pieces that are moved. I think Mike Elias will make the decisions that are best for the team for next season, but he also is somebody that has been getting a lot of heat from the fan base as far as this is not the Houston Astros situation. This team has not gotten to the World Series. In fact, they haven't even won a playoff game in your tenure. So what are we doing here? There's going to be multiple pieces for the Orioles moved. I can tell you that.
Yep, there certainly is going to be. We saw that start with Gregory Soto. And heck, by the time this podcast uploads, maybe that second guy does get moved as well. As joining me on the show, we do have Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see who acquires these guys as well, because typically you don't want to move guys within the division. But as we know, the Boston Red Sox are probably going to go for it because they freed up a lot of money for Rafael Devers getting moved a little bit earlier. The Toronto Blue Jays actually own the best record in the American League now with the way that they've been taking it to the Detroit Tigers. The New York Yankees are the New York Yankees, and I think that that's going to be of big fascination. Which of these teams steps up and buys? Because as you just laid out, there's quite a few pieces for the Orioles that maybe they're not complete game changers, but they're pieces that could be nice ancillary guys to be able to help out a playoff run. And there's a lot of teams out there, especially out there in the American League, that could utilize some of them.
Yeah, and with the news of Aaron Judge hitting the injured list, I mean, I don't know that an Orioles-Yankees trade would be something that would happen. But, I mean, Cedric Mullins has been linked to the Mets as a outfielder option for them. And I'm certainly thinking that the Yankees might like Cedric Mullins as well, too, but I don't see it being a situation where the Orioles would deal to one of their biggest rivals, and every time they come down here, there's half Yankees fans. So, yeah, it just doesn't seem like a situation that would unfold to me. And another guy I mentioned, too, Trevor Rogers, we'll see how Saturday night plays out, but he is somebody that has just been the light with this pitching staff, starting rotation and bullpen. They really have lucked out with how well he has pitched here, considering it looked as if he should be not pitching in the major leagues whatsoever. He did get sent down for a little bit, as we know, but he has been very good for this Orioles club. I would say that if I'm looking at a team now, they have already made a trade. We've been talking about Gregory Soto, but Brian Baker was dealt to the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know that the Rays would make another move again with Baltimore, but if Shane McClanahan is somebody that's going to be coming back, I think the Rays are a team that will try and compete in this division, especially if it's for the taking. No Garrett Cole for the Yankees this year. Who knows how long Judge is going to be out. The Rays are a team that does have, in my opinion, a solid hitting, whether it's Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz is having a nice real year. We have a situation where Junior Caminero can certainly last the baseball. And, yeah, they've got nice outfielders, too, especially with DeLuca coming back now. So I think this Rays team, I don't know what they would necessarily need, and they don't trade for big time. I know they went for Nelson Cruz a couple of years ago, but they are somebody that I think is going to be looking at some options when it comes to improving their team at the deadline. And I got to think the Tigers, with how they've been skidding, are going to have to look at some of their situations here. Maybe they add a reliever, considering they had a guy like Gregory Soto and he's no longer there. That's a nice left-handed option. They're going to have to probably look around and see what's available out there, because for being the hottest team, for most of the first half of the season, they have not looked as good, especially, playing against the Toronto Blue Jays team, who has been absolutely able to best the baseball. And if I'm looking at probably a team in the National League, I think would be a big-time contender to make a move, I got to probably say the Chicago Cubs. I mean, and is Kyle Tucker going to be part of that conversation? That's one of the most fascinating things, too, because he's due for a big-time payday. I don't see them moving him considering how productive he is, but do they get multiple pieces, maybe another pitcher, maybe a bullpen piece? Everybody can use another bullpen piece, especially when we get to the postseason. Those 6, 7, 8, 9 innings, you want shutdown guys. I think the Cubs, I'm not going out on a limb saying that they're one of the contenders in the National League, but I think they're going to certainly be in play when it comes to the trade deadline.
Yep, they certainly are going to be, and it's going to be so fascinating to see the way that they're going to be able to maneuver all this. And there's just so many teams out there that I am fascinated to see what they do here moving forward. As Chris, we've got ourselves just a very open league in general. Like, I've been talking about the American League and how open it is. We've seen the Tigers really regress. You mentioned it. The Yankees are dealing with the Aaron Judge injury, and the pitching has not been that great. But I just look at everything in the league, and with the Dodgers injuries, with the way that the Milwaukee Brewers have risen up, but I'm not necessarily a believer in them, it just feels like it's a very open year. And if you're a team that is anywhere near 500, I think that this is a time to be able to buy, because this is a 1 year where I feel like if you put your chips in the middle, you have a good chance of being able to come out on top, because there just is not that dominant team this year.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed your conversation you had with Ben Wilson recently talking about the Milwaukee Brewers. They really were dealt a blow with Frelick going on the injured list. He was somebody who could play the outfield. He could run. He was getting on base. I don't know the severity. It's a hamstring. So, is he going to be coming back anytime soon? But, yeah, when you've got Peralta at the top of that rotation, Woodruff back in the mix, just a team that has been able to step up and deliver and win ball games. And it's been impressive, no doubt about it. So there's somebody that has been impressive as far as making it happen with not the big-time names like the Dodgers. And we've seen the Dodgers struggle at times this season, even though they acquired a number of different players, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries with their rotation. Was watching the Houston Astros the other night, and they're a strong team, no doubt about it, and they're not exactly the star-studded lineup that we saw from years ago with Alex Bregman, and Yordan Alvarez hasn't been playing. And I was watching the game the other night, and Jose Altuve was out of the lineup there. Jeremy Pena has been hurt. Yet still somehow they are able to churn out these wins and get production out of some guys that have been veterans there, pitchers that have done a great job this season as well, too. You've talked about Hunter Brown and his success as potentially a, Cy Young candidate in the American League. And, when you've got Framber Valdez and all the experience that he's got bringing to the table, and I've already mentioned Josh Hader, get to him, he's still nasty. And guys like Yainer Diaz were able to step up and provide you some power. And so is Christian Walker. So, yeah, I like this Astros team to potentially make one more move, because they don't have that Kyle Tucker. There's another one not part of their team anymore at this point. So they may want to say, look, we're solid in the American League West at this point. But Seattle, you can't count them out, because if you're looking at this Seattle team, they have some solid pitching options, Logan Gilbert and whatnot, but Luis Castillo struggled the other day, and they have some hitting options that have absolutely been scorching of late, like a Randy Arozarena. But at the same time, they are a team, too, that I think can potentially struggle in the postseason. I think about their game where they went 18 innings and didn't score a single run against the Toronto Blue Jays. So we know that they've already gone on and made some moves here. So that was a big-time acquisition, getting Josh Naylor. This is a guy I loved from the time he was in Cleveland. So, yeah, that was a big move for them, considering they've got Cal Raleigh already, too. It's going to be a nice little battle in the American League West to see who comes out on top. And I don't know about the Texas Rangers. What do they end up doing at the trade deadline? They're an intriguing team because they've got the pieces as well. They just don't really have the record at this point. But 3 wildcard teams, it can be certainly wide open. So I can see Texas trying to get into that mix. And yeah, I think the team I talked about on this pod the last time, the Twins and the Royals, both have tanked in the last couple of weeks. So I would imagine that they're both probably going to be more so sellers than buyers at this point.
Yeah, with the Minnesota Twins, when you lose a series to Colorado Rockies, that's rough. The St. Louis Cardinals can relate as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward. And with regards to things out there in your neck of the woods, I just mentioned the Colorado Rockies. For Baltimore, they still do have a game to be played on Sunday. Tomoyuki Sugano, who knows what happens with him after Sunday, but he's going to get the start against Austin Gomber, and the Orioles are $2 favorites. How do you just take a look at this Orioles team in the next few days and them for the rest of the year? Because obviously they're going to be selling off some pieces, but they still have a lot of young talent, and I feel like this is going to be an audition for a lot of these guys for 2026 and beyond, much like it's been for the Colorado Rockies, well, since day one, since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Colorado is an unfortunate bunch, but they beat the Orioles Friday with Ezekiel Tovar able to deliver the big-time home run at the end of the game, and the Orioles came. So you asked me how I'm going to approach betting the Orioles. I've lost some money this year betting the money line. I will try to pick spots where they will, I believe, go over their team total because I've mentioned it. This lineup still, to me, is solid. Jackson Holliday is like everything that has been advertised, and that's not to be unexpected considering who his father was. He's displaying power. He's displaying ability to go to the opposite field. He can play defense. Jordan Westberg's solid. Again, I mentioned if they end up keeping O'Hearn around, that's a nice piece for them. Colton Cowser's great. So, yeah, and Adley Rutschman, if he ever comes back into form, and I mentioned the pitching staff, the Orioles aren't too far away. But anyway, I can't trust them on a nightly basis given that they're rolling out Andrew Kittredge in the bullpen, who every time he pitches, it's been pretty brutal. And I can't say that I'm all that impressed with guys like Grant Wolfram either in that bullpen there as well, too. So it's not exactly a favorable situation for them at the moment. Colin Selby, not all that great either. Yadier Cano is probably the one I would trust the most, but he's not the same pitcher that he's been. So, yeah, it's just tough to trust the Orioles other than, for me, offensively. This year, Greg, we've talked about it a little bit a few minutes ago. Baseball, it's been great, in my opinion, in that there has not really been that, and it may emerge that the Dodgers and the Yankees end up at the very end of the season in the World Series again. But right now, it feels like very much there's good parity in the league, and for me, that's why it makes it difficult to lay big numbers with favorites. I'd rather take my shot with underdogs, especially I think about Friday night or Thursday night. Seattle was playing the Angels, and they were dogs. Granted, on the road against Yusei Kikuchi, but it's Seattle against the Angels offense. I think I know which one I'm going to trust over the other. So I try to pick spots with underdogs. At least this year, that's seemingly been the strategy that's been working for me.
Yeah, and if you look ever since the All-Star break, this was going into Saturday, by the way, so a little bit of context there, but the underdogs post-All-Star break, 50-42 on the money line. So, yeah, that's been really good for you as the underdogs have just been barking these last few days, and if you've done nothing but take the plus money, well, you've been making yourself a big profit, and we always have ourselves a great time whenever you're aboard, Chris. You do an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. You're locking it down out there in the city of Baltimore with a little bit of everything. We do get big time bang for our buck. It's always like we are cashing that plus money ticket whenever you're aboard. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Greg, thank you as always for the kind words and for the opportunity to join your great show at the Big Cheese Show on social media. I will be doing WBAL Sports this upcoming Thursday as we've got a training camp special for the Ravens. So I'll be on the morning show, hopefully talking about some better times for the Orioles this upcoming week as, again, I work for the flagship radio station. So, yeah, when they do well, we do well. And hopefully they can come out of this Colorado Rockies series. This is supposed to be one that they get maybe it going and send off some of their players that they're going to be trading with on a high note. But we'll see how it plays out. But it's always a great time with you too, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Always great to be able to get Chris aboard. He does such an incredible job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me and lends such great insights. So big thanks, Chris, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Taking a look at everything out there in the DMV area, over out there in the great state of Maryland, over by our nation's capital. Every single time he joins me, laying such great insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Chris for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board? The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates as Paul Skeens walks a plank for the Buccos and Zach Gallen looks to fill it up for Arizona. Arizona is between a plus 128 to a plus 138 dog. Minus 152 to a minus 160 is the number on Pittsburgh. 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. I'm in on the under. I set my total at 7.3. I think that Paul Skeens is going to do his part because Paul Skeens always does his part. For Paul Skeens, he has been absolutely amazing this year. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, he is supplying a 191 ERA, fielding a pen of a 240. He's allowing less than a half a home run per 9 innings. He's giving up 2.2 walks, 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been great at home. He has been great on the road. He has allowed 2 runs in his last 4 starts. Now, he has went 5 innings or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and what I don't trust in this game is guys not named Paul Skeens, because you've got a Pirates team that in their game on Friday, they got 1 hit in 11 innings against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and currently they are dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've got 3 guys on the roster with more than 4 home runs this year for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Nick Kurtz, for example, had 4 home runs in 1 game for the Athletics. So yeah, that's how badly it's going for them. You do have Andrew McCutchen, who's been able to give you about a 335 on base. He has applied 9 home runs. Brian Reynolds is up to 10 bombs. He's only hitting about a 235 though. And then O'Neal Cruz, he's got 16 home runs, but Luis Piguero, throwing their Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, you've got a lot of guys. They're hitting a 220 or lower. Alexander Canario as well. You've had Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Tommy Pham find a way to be able to get on base, but this is a Pirates offense that's rough, and even with Josh Naylor traded away from the Arizona Diamondbacks, you still have some fearsome pieces. They should have Eugenio Suarez out there. Might get traded after Sunday, but I'll have him out there for this game. He's been supplying 36 home runs. You've had Ketel Marte be able to give you a home run every about 13 or so at bats. He's right now giving you north of a 375 on base. Corbin Carroll struggled since coming off the injured list, but still 20 plus home runs. You have to think that you're going to be getting a lot of at bats for Geraldo Perdomo moving forward, who's been able to give you a 350 on base. James McCann Cichon in a small sample size has been solid at the catcher spot as well. And then the Diamondbacks' big issue has really been the bullpen, as this is a bullpen that is in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Ryan Thompson just hit the injured list, but that's not a bad thing because he has been awful for the team. They just reinstated Kendall Graveman. John Curtis with 2 S's, Juan Murillo. You've got a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA above a 4. Now you've got Shelby Miller on the injured list. He was pretty much your lone trustworthy piece in this bullpen. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's been a little bit better in terms of their bullpen, but I'm not going to call it some sort of an amazing bullpen as well. They've been above league average this season. You've had likes of David Bednar, Dennis Santana, and Isaac Madsen give you an ERA below a 3, but Caleb Ferguson has started to regress. They had to put Jay Shogert on the injured list as well. And for Zach Gallen, I don't know what has happened with this guy, but he has been absolutely awful thus far this season. For Gallen, a 5.58 ERA, and he certainly is on helping out his trade stock. He's been a little bit better if you look at the fielding independent numbers, but still, 1.7 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, but again, gets a face-off against a Pirates lineup that has been so bad. Semi-total 7.3. I like the under, and getting a plus 135 or higher, as I set my number at a plus 133. I'm in on the stakes on the money line. 903, 904 on the card. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers, as it's Mr. Brandon Woodruff on the bump for the Crew, and Eury Perez is on the bump for Miami. Miami is a underdog of anywhere between plus 152 to a plus 160, between minus 162 to a minus 190. That number on Milwaukee, and 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for the Brewer Crew, I set their money line price at a minus 171. Now, doing this with an initial FanDuel opener, and these are always all over the place, to say the least, with regards to their run lines, but that initial run line price is a plus 134, and I'd be willing to take that. I'm in on a plus 116 or higher. Brandon Woodruff pretty much missed a year and a half for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he's picking up right where he left off. He has been absolutely magnificent for this Brewers team, as he has made 3 starts. He's posting up a $1.65 ERA, and the swing and miss stuff is supreme. He is getting 12.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been really doing a nice job of not having any command issues, as well as yet to give up a walk in any of these 3 starts. And if I'm not mistaken, his first start coming back was against the Miami Marlins, where he was able to give up just 1 run and 2 hits in 6 innings. And then for Eury Perez, it took him a few starts to be able to find his footing, but he's looking like the guy that we all know and love from a few years ago. 3.23 ERA, but a 2.78 fielding independent. He has allowed just 2 home runs across his first 8 starts, 39 total innings, and he's up above 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up 3 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Now, I do have a little bit of fear that we might see regression with both of these bullpens. Both of these bullpens in the top 6 in terms of ERA since June 1st, so they've been able to really round into form, but I just feel a little bit better about the Milwaukee Brewers in general. Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, Nick Mears, these are all guys supplying a 3.25 ERA or better, and for the Miami Marlins, you've had quite a few guys be able to step up for this team, like Anthony Bender, Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips, below a 3.50 with their ERA. Josh Simpson has actually been a pretty nice piece in this bullpen as well, but I just think that there might be a bit of regression there. Now, for the Miami Marlins, this has been an offense that has been a whole heck of a lot better on the road rather than at home. That's actually been the case for both of these teams, as the Brewers actually lead the league in runs per game with 5.4 away from home compared to 4.1 at home, and then for Miami, about 3.65 runs per game at home compared to about 4.95 runs per game away from home. But neither of these teams necessarily crank out the deep ball, especially the Miami Marlins, as you've had Kyle Stowers be able to supply 22 plus home runs this year. That has been magnificent for this unit, and you've been able to get some relatively good production as well out of Augustin Ramirez. He's up to 14 plus home runs, not hitting for the world's greatest amount of average, but he's finding a way on. Otto Lopez is hitting about a 255 with 11 home runs as well, but you've got a lot of guys from there that they just sort of move the line. Stowers has been able to give you a 375 on base, and then at the top, Xavier Edwards hitting for a 290, only 1 home run, but he finds a way to get on. Dane Myers has seen a bit of regression, but he and Otto Lopez both hitting in the neighborhood of a 255, and for the Milwaukee Brewers, you've got Jackson Trio, Christian Yelich with a combined 36 home runs, both hitting above a 255, and then Rhys Hoskins has been solid as well, but he's been in and out of the lineup dealing with an injury. You've got a lot of guys that are giving you above a 340 with their on-base percentage. Isaac Collins, Bryce Terang, Caleb Durbin, Wilson Contreras. Even though these guys are not hitting for power, they're finding a way to be able to get on base, move the line, and you've got essentially 5 different guys for this Brewers starting lineup that have been able to give you at least 11 stolen bases bases, and I believe all but 2 of their guys in the starting lineup yesterday had at least signed stolen bags. So I do think that for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to be shifty. They're going to be able to find a way to be able to play station-to-station baseball and get the job done here. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that Brewers run line. I do think that they get to Perez and that bullpen, and maybe my total is 7.8. I like the over, and I do like the Brewers on the run line. 905, 906 on the card. The Slam Diego Padres are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals as Michael McGreevy is on the bump for the Cards, and Stephen Kolek goes for San Diego. 9 is the total, with the over at minus 120, and the under is even. And for Kolek on the Padres, I did set them at a plus 103, so being able to get right around a plus 110, I'm even seeing a plus 118 out there. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the San Diego Padres money line. Now with Stephen Kolek, hasn't necessarily lit the world on fire. He had that complete game against the Colorado Rockies when the Rockies were really just miserable, but for Kolek, he's going to do a solid job of keeping things out in front of him. He's not going to create a whole bunch of stupid mistakes or anything like that. 2.8 walks, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, while getting about 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. 4.20 ERA, 4.08 fielding independent, has been getting banged around quite a bit with 3+ runs allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. This dates all the way back to mid-June, but I do think that going up against the St. Louis Cardinals lineup that really just is not supplying the deep ball right now is going to be very beneficial to them. Now, for the St. Louis Cardinals, they are averaging about 4.8 runs per game at home. That has been a top 12 mark in all of baseball, but for the St. Louis Cardinals, a relatively powerless team this far this season. 22nd in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis, and the Padres are actually 28th in the big leagues. So I do think that this total is set too high. I'm going to be taking a look at the under, but for the Cardinals, you've got Wilson Contreras, who's right now leading the way with 14 home runs, and then you do have quite a few guys that have done a nice job of being able to find a way on base, like Alec Burleson has been able to give you 12 home runs. He's been hitting about a 290. Brendan Donovan, not a ton of bombs, but he's hitting about a 290 as well. You've had Ivan Herrera come off the injury list, and that's big for them because he's one of the best power hitters. He's been able to give you nearly a 300 average, so these guys have been solid, but Nolan Arenado has taken a big setback this year. You really haven't gotten a lot out of Victor Scott, along with Jordan Walker towards the bottom of the lineup as well. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a fearsome lineup, and for the San Diego Padres, again, 28th in terms of home runs out of per-at-bat basis. They had Gavin Sheets out of the lineup yesterday, so you had 2 guys in the starting lineup above 8 home runs, Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., pair of guys above a 345 on base, combined 36 home runs, but Luis Arias has been down, hitting about a 285. The entire catcher spot has been miserable for this team. They were banking on getting something out of Jason Hayward. That didn't pan out, so they've been mixing, matching, sort of in that DH spot and out there in the outfield. Jackson Merrill hasn't supplied the same amount of production that he did a season ago, but this Padres team has also been very dominant with their bullpen. Entered into this series number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So many guys are just going out there, give you a sub 275 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, Andre Motorhone, David Morgan, even with having Robert Suarez blowing some saves, this team has been pretty solid there. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, overall for the season, they've been about a league average bullpen. It does feel like they're starting to round into form a little bit. Ryan Elsley was relatively rough to begin the season, but he's been able to pick things up after blowing 5 saves early on during the season. He, Matt Savanson, Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero, Phil Matone, these guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. And for Michael McGreevy, he's not a strikeout artist, 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he also limits damage. He's given up 2 home runs and 3 walks in 28 1/3 innings, so he's been able to do a nice job of being able to keep things out in front of him. These are 2 pitcher contact guys that are facing off against 2 lineups that aren't hitting the deep ball. Somebody sold it at 8.7. I like the under, and with the Padres, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. 907, 908 on the card. The New York Mets are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. It is undecided on the bump for the Giants, and Kodai Senga goes for the Mets. This is the game that is presently off the board, and not even seeing any sort of like a FanDuel opener or anything like that, but I have this just labeled as bullpen game for the Giants, and I set it at a plus 143 with regards to the Giants, so I would need a plus 144 better to take a shot on San Francisco, minus 142 or better looking at the Mets, and then set a total of an 8.1, 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under for the Giants there. Currently just dealing with a few injuries in general, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline. Lyndon Roop hit the injury list, and so did Eric Miller, one of their main relievers. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Spencer Bivens, who's been utilized as a long guy, see a few innings here. He's posting up a 450 ERA, but do have a trio of guys, and Tyler Rogers, Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Udval would able to give you some 325 ERA. So if this team could just piecemeal together like 4 or so innings, that'd be fine. Sean Hedgeley has been utilized as a little bit more of a bulk guy, and he actually got the start on Sunday Night Baseball, the time that they traded away for Rafael Devers, and they had to ship away some of their pitching in the meantime, so that was someone that was able to see a little bit of a, shall we say, a bulk role, and he has been a little bit rough this far this season. He's posting up above a 70 ERA, so that's a little bit less than amazing. And for Kodai Senga, even though he has been posting up a really microscopic ERA, it is below a 2. You have to feel like there's going to be a little bit of regression here, and we saw that in his last start. Last start, he does give up 4 runs in 3 innings against the LA Angels, .79 ERA, but a 331 fielding dependent. Less than 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up 4 walks per 9. Now, the good news is he gets a pitch out there in San Francisco where it's really hard to crank out the deep ball. And for the Giants, it has been a lineup that has been in the bottom 10 in terms of runs per game. You've got William Adames really starting to pick it up. 8 home runs over his last 28 games. So he's starting to give you a little bit of something. Eloy Ramos is moving line. 340 on base, 14 home runs. Matt Chapman, 14 home runs, 350 on base. For Devers, not what this team was hoping for, but did have that multi-home run game about a week or so ago. He's up to about a 345 on base. Need to get more out of the bottom of the lineup. Tyler Fitzgerald, less than a 287 on base with no power. The entire catcher spot has been rough, so that's a bit of an issue. But on the flip side, it is a New York Mets team that's been very top heavy with their lineup. You've got 4 guys that have been able to pound out at least 19 home runs this year. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto. Soto nearly a 400 on base. Alonso is starting to slip with his on base percentage down to about a 360. Lindor has been a little bit up and down ever since coming off the injured list, / he was injured but really didn't go on the injured list, but he's been dealing with a little bit of a lower body injury ever since, I would say, like late May, early June, so that's been a bit of an issue for him. And then you got the guys at the bottom of the fold. Brett Beatty is starting to pick it up, 11 home runs, hitting about at 240, and Jeff McNeil has been solid, 350 on base. I like to see that, but you've got Tyrone Taylor, Mark Vientos, the entire catcher spot, hitting at 225 or lower, and this is a Mets bullpen that has went straight down the toilet bowl recently. For the Mets, they were looking really good, and they do get Jose Buto off the injured list. Good long guy that's able to give you a sub-325 ERA, but Oscar Brzobin now is above a 350 ERA. Reed Garrett has been pretty solid, but Ryan Stanek has been all sorts of awful. Since June 1st, the Mets 26th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and with Senga not necessarily give you a ton of length because he's giving up a lot of walks. I do think that leads to a little bit of a higher scoring game out there in a pitcher-friendly ballpark in San Francisco. So, Interlots looking at the over 8.5 higher. The under will lay up to minus 142 on the Mets, plus 144 higher. Looking at the Giants, 909, 910 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Detroit Tigers as Captain Jack Flaherty goes for the Tigre Days. Max Scherzer is on the bump for Toronto. Toronto is between even money to plus 104. Meanwhile, minus 114 to a minus 121 is that number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115. And for Mad Max, I did set the Blue Jays at a plus 107. When it's all said and done, if we can get like 3 or so pennies of line movement, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line, as things have just went really far downhill for the Detroit Tigers team. Like, man, they have not been able to get out of their own way. And for Captain Jack Flaherty, he's looking a little bit better. I've had to give him a little bit of an upgrade in the last few starts, and I thought that he was going to be able to round into a bit of better form. 477 ERA, closer to a 430 fielding dependent. He's still getting the 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Problem has been the deep ball. 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Has given up 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. That said, he's also given up approximately 3 runs in 3 of them as well. So has been a neither here nor there pitcher. Meanwhile, for Max Scherzer, I mean, that's a lot of what you can expect out of him. We'll go 5 innings and he'll give up 3 runs. He has allowed 300 runs or fewer in all but one of his starts, but I mean, over the course of his last 5 starts, he's giving up an average about 2.7 to 2.8 runs per game, and he's going about 5 innings every start. 5.14 ERA, 5.31 fielding dependent, 2.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So you've got 2, shall we say, veteran pitchers that are giving up the deep ball a little bit too much, and 2 guys that have been relatively similar. Now the bullpen edge, that certainly goes to the Toronto Blue Jays. As for the Detroit Tigers, you've had Will Vest be solid in this bullpen with a sub-3 ERA, and then Brand Herter, who's able to give you multiple innings. He's been rock solid, but they pick up Carlos Hernandez. He has been awful. You've had Tommy Kahnle just absolutely poop the bed for this team. You've had a lot of guys like a Chase Lee be a little bit up and down as well. And then for the Toronto Blue Jays, top 8 team and bullpen ERA, you've got Justin Brule, Brandon Fisher, Yuriel Rodriguez, Brandon Little, all give you a 3 ERA or better. They deal with the Yimi Garcia injury for much of the season, and yet they've still been able to persevere. And for the Blue Jays, you do want to be cautious of their home and road splits with regards to their offense, as right now on the road, they've only been able to generate about 4 runs per contest compared to 5.35 runs per game at home, but that offense on the road is really starting to round into form with George Springer supplying 17 home runs at 380 on base. And then Bo Bichette, Edison Barger, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. all between 13 and 14 home runs. for all three of these guys. They've done a nice job hitting for average with at least a 273. Guerrero north of a 385 on base, and then Nathaniel Lukes is giving you right around about a 355 on base. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk. He's been hitting at 300. Ernie Clement is being able to move the line as well, and for Detroit, since the All-Star break, this team is averaging less than 3 runs per game. The Kerry Carpenter injury, I really think, is having a profound effect on this team. He's pretty close to returning, so that's going to be able to help them out. In the meantime, you do have Spencer Torkelson up to 23 home runs. He's been able to supply about a 337 on base. Riley Green getting a 275 with 25 home runs has been rock solid as well. And then lots of guys around him that find a way to be able to get on base. Javi Baez, Dylan Dingler, Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, between about a 265 to a 280. So that's solid. And Cole Keith has been able to give you about a 340 on base as well. So I do think that the offense is going to be able to turn around a little bit. Do have a bit of caution with this bullpen, but that said, I do think that the Tigers are worthy of being a very, very slight favorite at home. But again, if we can get to a plus 107, so we need about 3 to 4 cents of line movement. I think that we're going to get it. Going to be in on the Blue Jays money line who have been so white hot, and this time I told it at 8.9. Here at the 8.5, I like the over. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Athletics are on the road against the Houston Astros. Colton Gordon goes for Houston, and JT Ginn and Juice is on the bump for the Athletics. 8.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and for Gordon and the Astros, they're between minus 130 to minus 137. Between plus 112 to a plus 122 is your number on the Athletics. This actually opened up as an 8, and that got gobbled up very quickly, but I still like the 8.5 over. For Colton Gordon, he's actually been posting up a worse ERA when he has been at home rather than when he has been away from home, as at home he's posting up a 4.78 ERA overall for the season for Colton Gordon, giving up about 1.6 to 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, 4.53 ERA, and then JT Ginn has a 4.50 ERA. Feeling Independent's right on par with that as he's getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.4 walks and 2.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and you've got an Athletics bullpen that has been athletically challenged. You do have Sean Newcomb and Michael Kelly who have been giving you a sub-4 ERA, so these guys have rounded in form a little bit, but even Mason Miller has been having a rough season, above a 3.75 with his ERA, and then you just have a poo-poo platter of different guys that are posting up an ERA above a 4. Elvis Alvarado, Jack Perkins is actually below that, so we'll give him a little bit of credit. Justin Sterner, they're looking at Jeff Ridgway right now for some innings. Like, man, it's not great to say the least. As well, Dobito, the long guy, has not been amazing, and for the Athletics, they're right around about league average in terms of offense. Nick Kurtz has that 4 home run game, and the guy has just went absolutely berserk. He's getting a home run every about 10.5 at-bats, and he's hitting a 300. My goodness. Jacob Olsen is starting to fall back to earth a little bit, but he's still hitting above a 300. And then you've got Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, a combined 40 home runs. Rookers give you a 350 on base. The offense has been relatively fine, and for the Houston Astros, it is a case where the team is dealing with the injury to Jeremy Pena, but even with that, they're persevering. Isaac Paredes is up to 19 bombs at a 360 on base. Jose Altuve is looking like the Jose Altuve of old. 17 home runs, hitting above a 275. And then Chris Walker, Yanier Diaz, they're not giving you a ton in terms of on base, but they're both up to 13 home runs apiece. In terms of raw batting average, they haven't been the world's worst. Cam Smith starting to regress a little bit, but still 333 on base. Jake Myers is hitting above 300. So, you've got some nice bats here for the Houston Astros, and for the Astros, by far a better bullpen. This team is in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So many guys going out there giving you an ERA below a 275. Steven Okert, Bennett Sosa, Brian King. You throw in there a guy like a Josh Hader. These guys have been very rock solid. So it's a circumstance where I did set the Astros on the money line at a minus 153. I'm going to be willing to lay it, and I like this total over. Sub I total it at 8.7. 913, 914 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road going up against the Kansas City Royals. Noah Cameron goes for Kansas City, and Joey Cantillo is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is a underdog between plus 116, seeing as low as a plus 108 out there. Meanwhile, for the Royals, they're going to be laying between a minus 123 to a minus 132. 8.5 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115, seeing minus 120 on the over, under at even. And with Cleveland, I did set them as a mid-size underdog here for plus 126. So right now I'm seeing that minus 123. I'm seeing a minus 125. I'm going to lay that with the Royals. Now, I do think that Noah Cameron is due for some regression, as he has been pitching to a lot of contact. has been finding a way to be able to get the job done, as he's posting an ERA right now of a 2.61, and he has allowed 2 runs or fewer in all but 3 out of his 13 starts thus far, but 379 fielding independent, getting about 2.6 walks and 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, with his 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and the swing and miss stuff has been going up a little bit, so that's very encouraging. And for Joey Cantillo, he's essentially the opposite. He's been able to get a lot of strikeouts, as he's racking up 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's giving up 1.4 home runs and 4.7 walks per 9 innings. Began the season coming out of the bullpen. Now he's starting to get some starts, and in his 4 starts that he has made since being pretty much brought back up from the minor league level, 8 runs allowed in these 4 starts, so he's not giving up a ton of runs, but he's also not getting a ton of length either. In these 4 starts, he has went a combined 19 innings, so it's sort of been a whole hum there. And with the Cleveland Guardians, you did see Emmanuel Clase blow game number 1 yesterday for them, and it's not the same bullpen as it was a season ago. It's looking a little bit better. Obviously, Clase blows a save yesterday, but other than what we saw yesterday, he's been relatively rock solid over the last few weeks. You bring back Eric Sobrowski off the injured list. He's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Nick Enright has been a nice little bit of a find for this team, but you do have some shaky pieces, to say the least. You got Paul Sewell back on the injured list, and Tim Aaron, he's been a nightmare. He's been posting up a 4 ERA. It's been sort of mix and match, and Hunter Gaddis has had some regression as well. And for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a top 12 team in terms of their bullpen ERA. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves has had some post-All-Star break woes, but overall, these two guys still give you an ERA below a 3. Daniel Lynch hitting the injured list has hurt this team, but Steven Cruz is below a 3 ERA. You've had some good innings as well out of John Schreiber, and for the Royals, about 3 runs per game at home is a little bit less than savory, but Salvador Perez, 8+ home runs in the month of July. He's been able to do a nice job there. You've got Vinny Pasquantino supplying 17 bombs with about a 265 average. And Bobby Witt Jr., you would expect a little bit more than 14 home runs for 103 games, but 340 on base, 27 stolen bases, so he's done a nice job there. Jonathan India has had a little bit of a less than tremendous season, but the walk-off homer yesterday, that makes up a little bit for it. But he, Drew Waters, throw in there Kyle Isbell, a bunch of guys hitting between about a 240 to 250 that aren't necessarily supplying you with a bunch of power, but it's not like this Cleveland Guardians team has been anything magical as well. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game as well, and they're a very top-heavy lineup, as Jose Ramirez has been tremendous, supplying over 20 home runs. He's giving you about a 370 on base, nearly a 300 average. Stephen Kwan at the top of the fold, 350 on base, hitting at 285. Not a ton of power, but he's getting the job done. And then Carlos Santana, 11 home runs, but he's starting to dip as well, as he's just part of a big, giant cavalcade of different guys hitting at 225 or lower. I recognize that Kyle Manzardo had 16 home runs, but he's hitting at 223. So you've got Santana, Daniel Schneemann, throwing there Bo Naylor, Brian Rocchio, obviously Austin Hedges, Jean-Kezzy Noel, David Fry, whole bunch of guys hitting at 225 or lower. So I do think that this is going to be a bit of a lower scoring game. I did set my total here at an 8.7. We're starting to see some 9s pop up. Personally, I would rather take a 9 under rather than an 8.5 over. And I did set a little bit of a higher total because you had the double dip yesterday. You had a 10 inning game in the double dip yesterday. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of bullpen pitching. If I had to play the 8.5 right now, I'd be looking at the over. If we can get to a 9, which is sort of where we're trending, we'll be looking at the under there. So it's a little bit of wait and see. But if I had to play this right now with the 8.5s out there, I'd be looking at the over again, trying to be able to get a 9. But that said, with Kansas City Royals, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 126 on this money line. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the LA Angels, as the professor Kyle Hendricks goes for the Halos, and Logan Gilbert is on the bump for Seattle. Seattle's between minus 150 to minus 164, and between plus 134 to a plus 140, that number on Los Angeles. 9 is the total, the under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. Did set my total at 8.9, so I'm going to be willing to dive in on the under here, as you've had a guy, Kyle Hendricks, who's been shaky to say the least this year. The good news is he really doesn't give up a lot of walks. The bad news is he gives up pretty much everything else. 4.92 ERA, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, but 6 strikeouts, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's got a 4.82 fielding independent. That's been a little bit better recently. 3 runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but for Kyle Hendricks, when he has been at home, he has been still giving up quite a bit of the deep ball. He's giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings when he is at home, so that's a little bit of an issue. And then you've got a guy in Logan Gilbert who is absolutely getting strikeouts. Now, Logan Gilbert has been giving up a little bit of the deep ball as well, and he faces off against an Angels lineup that has been good at being able to supply power. Top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. For Gilbert, 3.07 ERA compared to a 2.68 fielding independent. 13.1 strikeouts to 2 walks per 9 innings for Gilbert. He had a little bit of a shaky rocky run of things going into the All-Star break. His last 2 starts, though, he's been very rock solid. 200 runs given up in his last 11 2/3 innings, and he is backed up by the far better bullpen. For the LA Angels, this team does rank in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had Kenley Jansen and Brock Burke actually be able to rise up, give you a sub-3.45 ERA in this bullpen. Hunter Strickland was rounding into form, but now he's on the injured list, so that's been very much less than tremendous. But then you've got just a cavalcade of different guys. Sam Bachman, Connor Brogdon, Jake Eters, they're utilizing as a bulk guy. Jose Fermin. So many guys are giving you above a 4.35 ERA, and for the LA Angels, just not a lot of guys moving the line, getting on base. Bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage at home. Logan O'Hoppe, 18 home runs, but a 280 on base. Zach Neto has been able to get on base. He's been hitting for about a 275 with 15 home runs. Mike Trout, he's only hitting for a 236 with the average, but a 361 on base, 18 home runs. Taylor Ward is finally up above a 300 on base, 23 home runs out of him, but Luis Renifo, 279 on base with 4 home runs. You just expect a little bit more there. The catcher spot has been hit or miss with Travis d'Arnaud and company as well. And then for the Seattle Mariners, nothing has been hit or miss about this catcher spot because it's been very much a hit with big dumper Cal Raleigh, giving you 39 home runs and a 370 on base. Julio Rodriguez and Mr. Ori Polanco between 16 and 17 home runs apiece, both hitting above a 250. Randy Arozarena has been one of the hottest players in all baseball, 19 home runs as far this season, but what the man has been able to do over the last 30 or so days has been magnificent here in the month of July. Arozarena, 9 home runs at about a 333 on base, so absolutely love to see that. And then you've got some like a Dominic Ganzone, who here in the month of July, he's been hitting above a 300 as well. And then those top guys in the bullpen for the Seattle Mariners have been firing all cylinders. Gabe Spire, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, all below a 265 ERA. Edward Bizardo's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA as well. So I do think that the Seattle Mariners should be a nice size favorite here. I set them on the money line at a minus 149. If you're taking a look at that initial FanDuel run line for them, you're laying a minus 104. I would need a plus number here. I would need more like a plus 108 when it's all said and done. I do think that we can get a little bit of a chalk here, like minus 145, minus 150 money line. So I'll be looking there probably at a chalk here, like I said, minus 145, minus 150 money line up to about a minus 149. And then with regards to total at the 9, I like the under, so I might total at an 8.9. 9:17 on the card. The Orioles play host the Colorado Rockies. Austin Gomber hopes to not get gombered up by Baltimore, and Tamayuki Sugano goes for Baltimore. 10 is the total. The under is minus 115 to a minus 120. The over is between even minus 105. For Baltimore, they are between minus $2 to a minus 208. Plus 168 to a plus 180 is that number on Colorado. And if you're looking at that initial FanDuel run line for the Baltimore Orioles, you're going to be getting that right around about even money or so. I'm right now seeing a minus 102, and I'd be willing to go up to a minus 109 with this run line. For Austin Gomber, he's actually been a whole lot better when he has been on the road rather than at home. For Gomber, he certainly has been getting gombered up, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. Overall this season, he's posting up a 6.03 ERA, but this comes down to a 3.86 ERA with 1.3 home runs allowed away from him. W.K. Sugano has been really struggling. He's given up 3+ runs in each out of his last 5 starts. He's pitching to just way too much contact in general. As for Sugano, he does a nice job of not putting guys on base cheaply. 2.3 walks allowed per 9 innings, but 1.7 bombs per 9 innings, 5.5 strikeouts per 9, so that's a big giant issue for him. But the good news is you get to go up against a Colorado Rockies team that they can't hit the broadside of a barn away from him. 3 runs per game away from him, second lowest in all of baseball. They trade away Brian McMahon. Not that he was doing anything on the road either. McMahon was raking at home, but he was not doing anything on the road. And you do get Thairo Estrada back, who's been able to hit for average. He's giving you absolutely no power whatsoever. That's why you've got Hunter Goodman. Goodman has actually been really good in terms of generating power away from home. 12 home runs in his first 45 road games this season, give you about a 337 on base, so that's been pretty rock solid. Kyle Farmer on the road has been able to hit about a 257 as well, but I mean, you just have few and far between guys hanging on the road, as you've got the likes of Jordan Beck, Mickey Moniak when he's been out there. You've had Mr. Orlando Arcia, all these guys hitting a 228 or lower away from him. Michael Toglia hitting a $150 away from him. Brendan Doyle 135. So you're just getting absolutely nothing there. And this is a Rockies team that's in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Victor Vodnik, Jimmy Herget are actually give you sub-3 ERAs, and when he's been out there, Jake Bird has given you about a 4 ERA, but and then you get into the likes of Juan Mejia, Zach Ognos, Tyler Kinley, guys that are just not getting the job done. And for Baltimore, they trade away Gregory Soto, which that is not a downgrade for this bullpen. Gregory Soto is not very good, so they're going to be relying upon some of these young gun guys. Now, Grant Wolfram has been just terrible since they sent him up to the big league level. He's posting up well above a 5 ERA. Yunier Canoa's fallen off the table with a 4.54 ERA. Cade Stout got a little bit of a cup of coffee at the big league level. I would anticipate him getting another call up. Felix Bautista, along with Sir Anthony Dominguez, Keegan Aiken. These guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Would not be surprised if Dominguez gets moved within the next few days. Heck, by the time this podcast is up, he might be moved. But for the Baltimore Orioles, it's a bullpen that is in the bottom 10 of the big leagues in terms of ERA, but it helps going up against this bad Colorado Rockies lineup. And then for the Orioles, just a whole bunch of different guys between 11 and 14 home runs. As a matter of fact, 6 in total. Ramon Laureano, Jordan Westberg, Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins, and for O'Hearn, 375 on base. Lots of other guys that have right around about a 310 to a 320 on base. Gunnar Henderson is hitting a 275, so that's been solid. Ramon Laureano's been hitting a 275 as well. Wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys move at the deadline. Obviously not Gunnar Henderson or Jackson Holliday, but I do think that the Orioles are going to be in a little bit of sell mode, and I do feel like this 10 is just way too high. I just don't think that the Rockies do their part. With the total, made my total at an 8.6, like the under, and I like the Orioles on the run line. 919, 920 on the card. The Boston Red Sox play the LA Dodgers as Dustin May hopes that it's Mayday for the Red Sox, and Walker Buehler goes for Boston. 10 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to minus 115. Minus 124 to minus 130 is that number on the Dodgers, and between plus 104 to a plus 114 is that number on Boston. And with the Dodgers, I'm going to be willing to lay this number. I set them at a minus 142. Walker Buehler just simply has not been good this year. I wish I could call it anything else. This is year number 2 coming off of major surgery. This is typically where starting pitchers, they find their form once again, and Walker Buehler has not done that. 5.72 ERA. Now, credit where it is due. He has now given up at least 3 runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts. So, has looked a little bit better there, but still, 7 strikeouts at 3.8 walks per 9 innings, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. So, he has been getting banged around like a piñata all season long. Now, for Walker Buehler at home, the ERA does go down to a 4.01, but he is still giving up about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings when he is at home. And for Dustin May, it's been less than savory for him as well. This is another guy that's out with a lot of injury. 4.73 ERA. His last appearance was actually a bulk appearance behind Shohei Ohtani, and he went 4 2/3 innings scoreless, which was big because he had given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his previous 4 starts. His fielding independent, right on par with his ERA at a 4.72, 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's giving up 3.9 walks, 1.4 bombs per 9, and the big advantage that the Boston Red Sox actually have in this game over the LA Dodgers is the bullpen. Jack Dreyer has been able to give this Dodgers team a sub 3.50 ERA out of the bullpen, so he's been able to do a good job. You've had Alex Vesia give you some solid innings, but Michael Kopech, Blake Trinan, guys like this being on the injured list have been rough. And then Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott, guys that they signed in the offseason, you thought that they would be better, and they just have not been. And then for the Boston Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman has looked like the Aroldis Chapman of old. A below 175 ERA, still getting above 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And then you just have a lot of mix and match guys that will be able to give you an ERA below a 3.40, as you've been able to have that out of the long guy in Garrett Whitlock, Brandon Bernardino, Justin Wilson, Chris Murphy, Greg Weiser. So a lot of guys are doing a solid job there. And for the Red Sox, the offense has not really missed a beat without Rafael Devers. Weiler Abreu was wild out for 20 home runs, hitting nearly 250, and then Trevor Story hitting about a 250. Would like to see a on-base percentage above 292, but 15 home runs out of him. Zidane Rafael is hitting above a 265 with 14 bombs. Alex Bregman is back. He's going to be able to give you a lot of production, as he's giving you 366 on base. And then the mix and match guys, Abraham Toro, Rob Refsnyder, throw in there as well Rami Gonzalez. These guys hitting above a 265 or better is big, and for the Dodgers, this continues to be a top 3 lineup in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Shohei Ohtani continues to be Shohei Ohtani, 375 on base, 37 home runs, and Andy Paz has had an incredible season as well. 19 home runs, hitting above a 285. Freddie Freeman is for a 370 on base with some power. Will Smith is getting jiggy with it, 423 on base. You've had Max Muncy being on the injured list, so that's been a bit more Tommy Edman, and he and Michael Conforto have been leaving something to be desired, to say the least. But overall, this is a relatively rock-solid team. You do have Mookie Betts, who's been day-to-day, but Mookie Betts has not necessarily had the impact that you would expect him to have this season. Teoscar Hernandez has been a more impactful bat in this lineup, so it's an interesting circumstance here with Buehler going up against his old team. I did set my total 9.8. I do feel like Buehler and May are starting to find just a skoge more, so I'm in on the under, and I'm in on that Dodgers money line. 921, 922 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road against the New York Yankees. Juan Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees. and Zach Wheeland and Dylan Wheeler goes for the Phillies. Phillies are between minus 124 to minus 130 favorites. Between plus 110 to plus 118 is that number on the Yankees. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, the under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and on the 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under, it is even money. And for Wheeler, I set him at a minus 118 on the money line. Seeing that plus 118 right now on the Yankees, that's my absolute minimum buy point here. There are very few books that have this up overnight, so we'll see where this moves in the AM. But for Zach Wheeler, since coming off the paternity list, he's been great. 2 runs or fewer allowed in, I believe, 6 out of his last 7 starts. He's been really getting the strikeouts as well. 10 plus strikeouts in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Overall for the season, 11.5 punch-outs per 9, 239 ERA compared to a 268 fielding independent. He's giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, so he's gone out there and he's done his part. But for Carlos Rodon, he's putting together a nice season as well. You always fear the deep ball with him, as he's been giving up a couple too many homers out there in Yankee Stadium since he got acquired, but still, guy that has given you 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up overall for the season 1.1 home runs per 9, perfectly acceptable. 3.10 ERA, 3.63 fielding independent, and you do have a pair of teams that have been a little bit rough with their bullpen. For the Philadelphia Phillies, it's starting to come back into form, as you've had your main guy in Ryan Kerkering supplying a sub-3 ERA, but for Max Lazer, Tanner Banks, Matt Strahm, these guys have been able to give you a little bit more of something, all below a 3.50 ERA. Jordan Romano has been absolutely terrible for this team, but Daniel Robert has actually been able to give them a little bit of something, and for the Phillies, you do have to have some fear over their home and road splits. For the Phillies, they're averaging about like 5.1 runs per game at home. This goes down on the road to closer to about 4.3 runs per contest, but having Bryce Harper back, giving you above a 370 on base, being able to supply the team with a double-figure amount of homers is big, and then Kyle Schwarber just having a career year. 36 bombs, 380 on base, that has been amazing. But then you've got the likes of Max Kepler, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos hitting between 11 and 13 home runs apiece. Castellanos is hitting at 270. Kepler's hitting for no average whatsoever, but Turner 25 stolen bases, 350 on base. And then you've got other guys moving the line, like JT Realmuto very silently is out hitting at 275. Omando Sosa has been able to hit at 270 as well. And for the Yankees, a little bit more of an all-or-nothing lineup. Giancarlo Stanton has been able to give this team quite a bit of something, except when he tries to just run the bases. He's not been great with that regard, but you know what? For Giancarlo Stanton, 7 home runs at 94 at-bats, 358 on base, you'll take that. Aaron Judge is now on the injured list, so that means that you're going to need the ancillary guys to be able to pick it up, as you've got so many guys between about 14 to 17 home runs. Trent Grisham, Anthony Volpe, Ben Rice, Austin Wells. We have seen Grisham along with Ben Rice slow down a little bit with the power, but Grisham continues to give you 355 on base. And Cody Bellinger's been great recently. 19 home runs, 333 on base. But for the Yankees, Luke Weaver, since coming off the injured list, has opted himself. Yuri De Los Santos hitting the injured list really hurt this bullpen as well. So in the bullpen, you've got Tim Hill providing a ERA below a 3. Luke Weaver overall for the season about a 3, but I mean that's went way up since he's gone off the injured list. And then like Ian Hamilton and company have been a little bit of a mess, but still I do think that Carlos Rodon gives you a relatively good start, and I do think that the Yankees have the firepower to get to Mr. Zach Wheeler here. So maybe my total at 8.1, like the over and end up plus 118 or higher. Look at that Yankees money line 923, 924 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They play also Tampa Bay Rays. The Boz, Shane Boz, is on the bump for the Rays. Brady Singer is on the bump for the Reds. Relative pick'em game here. Both of these teams anywhere between a minus 110 to a minus 105, and Donald's game is 9.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for the Reds, I set them at a minus 107, so willing to lay up to a minus 106 on the money line. So rather pick'em price, I would be siding with the Cincinnati Reds here. And for the Reds, it's been a rough season to say the least for Brady Singer. I've always been a little bit of a Brady Singer stan personally, so it's been rough to see. He gave up 7 runs in his last start against the Washington Nationals, but for Brady Singer, he's actually been a little bit better when he has been at home rather than away from home, despite the fact that Great American Small Park typically, well, they call it Small Park for a reason. Typically it hurts these pitchers, but 4.02 home ERA, 4.73 ERA on the road, despite the fact that his home runs per 9 rate nearly doubles at home. So that's been very fascinating to say the least. But for Brady Singer, overall for the campaign, he's got a fielding independent of a 4.21, 4.84 ERA. It's only giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, but the walks are way up. 3.7 walks per 9 innings. He's right where he is typically for his strikeout numbers, 8.2 punch-outs per 9. And for Shane Boss, he's got some good swing and miss stuff, but I mean, this is a guy that had just a really miserable May into like late June. Now here in July, he's been able to round into form. Did give up the 8 runs against the Chicago White Sox. That was less than tremendous, but he had given up a combined 7 runs in his previous 4 starts, so it looks like things are getting better from 4.57 fielding independent, 4.66 ERA. Again, he's given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That's really been his downfall, and He is backed up by a Tampa Bay Rays bullpen that, if you look at the overall ERA numbers, are not necessarily dominant, but likes of Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, Ogilvy below a 3.30 ERA, has been rock solid for this team. Overall for the season, the Rays about 15th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. The Reds are right around about 12, so these are very, shall we say, equal bullpens, even though for the Reds, you do have a guy that I just don't trust in Emilio Pagan because he gives up so many homers, but he has been able to supply this team with a sub-325 ERA. You've also been able to get that out of Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers, and Brent Suter. Suter has been a relatively good long guy, and for the Reds, even though you don't have a lot of fearsome bats, other than Ellie De La Cruz, 18 home runs, 27 stolen bases, he's been amazing. You've got guys that just in general find a way to be able to get on base. Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, both above at 350 on base. You've had Spencer Steer rounding into form. Him and McLean had 11 home runs apiece, so McLean, I think at 217, that's been a little bit less than amazing, but getting Austin Hayes back, he's been able to give you a home run every 20 at-bats, 340 on base, that's been solid. Likes of Will Benson, Christian Encarnacion Strand need to give you a bit more, and I think that they sent Encarnacion Strand just back down to the minor leagues because he was that miserable, because now you've got Niavoli Marte, who's been able to do a nice job finding a way to move the line and get on base. Circumstance with the Reds, I did set them at a minus 107. I trusted them on the money line and made my total 9.2, so you're at the 9.5. I'm in on the under. 925, 926 on the card. The Washington Nationals are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Sold undecided going for the Twins, and Jake Irvin goes for Washington. CBS Sports is right now projecting Travis Adams as a starter, and that's the way that I've handicapped this game with Travis Adams either being a starter or being a bulk guy, because he's mostly came out of the bullpen. He's made 3 total appearances for 9 innings, but if you do get Adams either as a starter or a bulk guy versus Irvin, I set the Twins at a minus 157 on the money line. We'd be willing to go up to a minus 156 there, or a plus 125 or higher would be looking at the run line. We need at least a plus 158 to take a shot on the Nationals, and made a 9.1 total. 9 or less, I'm in on the over. 9.5 or higher, the under. As for Travis Adams, small sample size here at the big league level. He's given up 7 runs, 6 of which have been earned over the course of 9 innings, but hasn't really gotten too much of a fair shot. He's only given up 1 walk and 1 home run in this time span. If you look at what he did at the minor league level this year, pretty solid over there at the minors. I'm not going to call it amazing. Not necessarily too much of a swing and miss guy. Never has been. 8.2 strikeouts at 2.8 walks per 9 innings over at St. Paul of the AAA level, but was giving up a half home run per 9 innings, so he keeps things out in front of him. He does a nice job of just not killing himself. And for Jake Irvin, to his credit, he does a nice job of not giving out a ton of free passes, about 3 walks and 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, as it's been the hard contact that has really killed him. 4.81 ERA compared to a 5.21 fielding independent, and he enters on a rough run. He's given up at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And for the Minnesota Twins, this has been a pretty pedestrian team in general. I mean, they lose that series against the Colorado Rockies to begin the second half of the season, but you've got Byron Buxton absolutely raking. 345 on base with 23 home runs, and then just a poo-poo platter of different guys with between 10 and 13 home runs. Harrison Bader, Matt Wallner, Cody Clemens, Trevor Larnach, Willie Castro, and Castro sitting for about a 340 on base. Larnach has been able to about a 240, and you just have a lot of guys for this Minnesota Twins team. They're in between, we're going to call it a 242 to 254. You've got that out of Castro. You've also got that out of Trevor Larnach. Cody Clemens is down to a 225. That's been a little bit less than tremendous, but Brooks Lee, guys like this, and then Carlos Correa is hitting a 265, but you paid him so much money, you expect a little bit more than 7 home runs for the Twins. The bullpen has went straight down the toilet bowl, despite the fact that the top guys have been really good. Like the top guys, Yohan Duran, Louis Varland, Brock Stewart, Danny Kalum, all below a 2.55 ERA, and yet they're still a bottom 10 team in terms of their bullpen ERA, but I do think that they do a solid job against a Nationals team that actually entered in a series in the top 10 in all of baseball in terms of runs per game away from home. James Wood is giving you really good wood, 370 on base with 24 home runs. I don't know how, but CJ Abrams, he's had 13 home runs this year. 10 of them have come on the road. He's hitting about a 270 overall. Luis Garcia, he's been moving the line, hitting about a 260. Nathaniel Lowe, not a lot of average, but 15 home runs. And Josh Bell here in the month of July, it's been hitting above a 300. He's up to 13 home runs, so he's been able to round into form. Ahmed Rosario's okay up moving the line, but for the Washington Nationals, it's dead last in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. You just really don't have good relief pitching whatsoever. Cole Henry, Andrew Chafin are down to below a 3.50 ERA, so congratulations there. But then you've got Jose Ferrer, Jackson Rutledge, Zach Brzezinski, Eduardo Salazar, so many guys with a above 4.50 ERA. Even Kyle Finnegan is above a 4.50 ERA, so I do think that this is going to be a bit of a rough one for the Nationals. I need at least plus 158 to take a shot on Washington. Minus 158 156 or better, or plus 125 run line in on the Twins, and then 9 or less to the over, 9.5 or higher, the under, 927, 928 on the card. The Cubs are going to be on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Sean Burke is on the bump for the Southsiders, and for the Cubs, it's all to be determined. This is a game that's off the board, and it lines up to be a Ben Brown either start or bulk appearance, and if you do get Ben Brown in some form or fashion, set the Cubs at a minus 152 on the money line. I'd be willing to take pretty much any sort of plus number on the run line. Need at least plus 153 to be able to fire in on the White Sox, and then made a total of 9.3, 9 or less. I'm in on the over, 9.5 or higher, the under. For the Cubs, they've actually been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. We're starting to see Chris flexing on that ERA, but we've got so many mix and match guys. Daniel Palencia, Ryan Brazier, Caleb Theobar, Drew Pomeranz, all below a 225 ERA, and that's big because Ben Brown, he actually gives you a lot of swing and miss. For Ben Brown, 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's sort of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn 2.0. He's given up about 3 walks per 9 innings. He's been allowing 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, and for the Chicago White Sox, it's been a pretty miserable team this season, but we saw in game number 1 of the series, them be able to put up a double-digit spot on Shota Imanaga and company, and for the White Sox, not a lot of power. Miguel Vargas, Andrew Benintendi, Luis Robert, all between 10 and 12 home runs, and that's about your main form of offense. You've had Chase Meredith be able to give you about a 335 on base, and then Lennon Sosa, Edgar Chiara hitting above a 265, but just so many guys are hitting below a 220 right now that it's not even funny. Michael A. Taylor, Luis Robert, you're able to throw in there Vinny Capra, Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas, just not a lot there. And then for the Cubs, top 3 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, Seiya Suzuki, Pico Armstrong. These 2 guys both have 26 plus home runs this season. You've had a lot of guys just find a way on base as well. Michael Busch, Kyle Tucker, both above a 365 on base, a combined 38 home runs between the 2 of them. Ian Happ and Carson Kelly both have 13 home runs. Happ hasn't been necessarily doing a great job of hitting for average, but Kelly's giving you about a 370 on base. Nico Horner's hitting about a 285. So I do think that the Cubs should be a relatively sizable favorite here, especially against a guy in Sean Burke who the ERA is not necessarily the world's worst, but I do have my issues with him as well. He's a low strikeout guy that doesn't necessarily do the world's greatest job with his command. For Sean Burke, right now a 4.19 ERA, but a 5.01 fielding dependent. 7 strikeouts, a 4.2 walks per 9 innings, giving up nearly 1.4 bombs per 9. To his credit, he has given up 2 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, but I don't think that this is going to be long lasting, especially against a Chicago Cubs team that they will make you pay for every single mistake. And for Burke at home, he has been giving up over 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. So circumstance where at a minus 151 or better, or any sort of plus number on the run line, looking at the Cubs plus 153 or higher, looking at the Southsiders, and then 9 or less, I like the over 9.5 or higher, the under, and we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the Walker, Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter goes for the Rangers, and Bryce Elder is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves do find themselves as a underdog here of between even money to minus 105, minus 110 to minus 115 is that number on Texas. 9 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to a minus 120. The over is between even to minus 105, and for the Rangers, I did set them at a minus 138 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. I just think that Bryce Elder is pitching like he's elderly right now, and there's just no backing him. For Elder, he doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. He doesn't do a great job with his command. 7.4 strikeouts, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, all while allowing 1.7 bombs per 9, 5.63 ERA. Overall, 3+ runs allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts. So, I mean, it is just all sorts of brutal for this man. To his credit, 4.71 ERA on the road, but on the road, he's also giving up over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And for Jack Leiter, it's not like he's been amazing this year. He's posting a 4.27 ERA, but 3 runs or fewer allowed in each of his last 5 starts and 10 out of his last 12. 4.55 fielding dependent. He needs to work on those walks. 4.4 walks per 9 innings. You can't get away with that when you're only getting about 8 punch-outs per 9 innings. But all of a sudden, the Texas Rangers entering in the day on Saturday, averaging about 5.7 runs per game in the month of July. These guys who have been just awful at the plate all season long are seemingly starting to find it, as you've got Corey Seager hitting up for above a 400 on base over the last 35 days. Wyatt Langford, he's not hitting for a ton of average, as you don't have a lot of guys doing that. He, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, all in between about a 225 to a 235, but all these guys are now up to at least 11 home runs this season. Josh Smith is hitting at 275. Kyle Higashioka has been hitting well above 300 this month. Evan Carter, since coming off the injured list, has breathed some life into this lineup. And for the Rangers, if you look since June 1st, this has been a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Lots of guys like a Hobie Milner, Robert Garcia, Chris Martin, Sean Armstrong are all providing a ERA of a 3 or better. And for the Atlanta Braves, Rossio Iglesias has been absolutely awful for them. He's posting up well above a 4 ERA. You've had Dylan Lee be able to give you some good innings. He and Pierce Johnson have been pretty rock solid in this bullpen, as both of these guys have been able to supply you with an ERA below a 3. You've been able to get some relatively solid innings when he's been out there as well, out of a guy like Desmond Hernandez, but he landed back on the injury list, so a little bit of an issue there. Now they're having to look at 2 guys like Hunter Stratton and company to be able to hold down the fort end, where the Atlanta Braves, bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, with Sean Murphy supplying 16 home runs. He's actually been pretty rock solid recently. And then Matt Olson up to about a 370 on base, 18 home runs. Ron Acuna Jr. has been great. He's been able to give you a 436 on base. He's getting a home run every about 13 or so at bats. And even Drake Baldwin, the rookie, 350 on base, double figure amount of homers. But it's been Michael Harris giving you about 7 home runs and nearly a 240 on base. Ozzie Albies has been below a 290 on base. He's had a single digit amount of homers. And then these guys at the bottom of the fold like Eli White, Nick Allen, give you no power whatsoever. They have been a powerless team, and I do think that is unfortunately going to be their downfall. And man, this has just been a really, really rough season for the Atlanta Braves. 14 games below 500 entering into Saturday, and I just don't think that's going to get any better, especially with Bryce Elder being as miserable as he has been thus far this season. So did set the Texas Rangers as a pretty nice size favorite at a minus 138, so I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. Maybe I tell an 8.8 as well. Here at the 9, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, per usual, please send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast by that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.